right. Hi, guys. I think we're good to go. Welcome on board. I'll just wait for a few minutes for people to join. Oh, no. Just undo. Is my mic working? Hi, guys. Let me check quickly the sound. Yeah, I think all good. All good. So we're gonna get cracking. Let's wait a few minutes. I'll just drop the link. Well, anyone can DM me if they want to join. Yeah, you can DM me either on X, the 0x ULTI account or 0x Stave account, and we'll be able to have a little conversation about tokenomics. Sounds good. Cool. Welcome, everybody. So we already have about 50 people across YouTube and X. All right. I'll wait for the counter to show 100 and we'll get started. Yeah, if anyone wants to join, guys, this is a community stream, so a bit last minute. So I understand if not too many people wants to show up, but yeah, you can stay anonymous. Hi Tom, hi Consciousness, Crypto Class, Tripod. Yeah, you just need to DM me. I'll drop the link. You can stay hidden or anonymous. But happy to have a conversation. You can have live questions. It'll be more interactive this way than just having me to read the chat. So. While we're waiting for people to join up, I think we're about 60, 70 people now. Yeah, we can do a quick review of what's going on with the live testing. People have been playing, have been swapping, have been depositing. I've seen you guys. It's been interesting to watch. All right, so let's do a little screen share. All right. I believe that you see my screen. Yes, so this is ULTI.org. You're familiar with it. What's interesting is that there's been a lot of volatility on the price. The price is now slightly above the starting price, but what changed, more important than the price, is the market cap. We started at 2 millions, and now we are much higher because a lot of ULTI has been minted by different folks. There was a few bots adding liquidity, injecting liquidity over time. A lot of people competing, swapping. The money is changing hands. The protocol generating revenue every time someone is swapping. And given the volatility, that's it's been quite interesting. I like to look at the detailed revenue that's been happening because of the volatility. So we're in cycle. Can you believe it? It was not made on purpose. Look at that cycle. I'll have to screenshot it. Cycle 33 minutes remaining. You could not make that up. That's cool. That's for the just documenting the history of the protocol. 33, guys. Cycle 33. about to reach. Yeah, when the cycle is over, it should be reaching 3 years. It's about 11 cycles per year. All right, so who is around? Okay, 90 people across X and YouTube, and we'll kick things off. Oh, some people are selling, some people are pumping. Yay. Let's enable for a little while the sound. Cool. So we can do a quick review just before I get started in what's going on with the testing. So we had 3 cohorts. The first cohort with 3 ETH initially deposited for every of the participants. As you can see, let's remove that for now. As you can see, the money has been changing hands, right? So some people have been very, very skilled or fortunate just to accumulate when the price of ULTI went down. And it looks like the pump pool is so big now that there's a lot of buy pressure, latent buy pressure waiting on the sideline. So whoever has been just trading, or we've seen money changing hands, we've seen people basically eliminating themselves from the competition because the price is maybe higher than what they sold for. So, and when the price started going low, more people deposited to get a good entry price because they didn't want to suffer from slippage, which increased the amount of ether deposited into the pump pool. So as designed, the system seems to be working quite cool. This is not the realistic, something to note, is not the realistic model because in real life, you will not be able just to get the same. If you were to sell ULTI, it would take about 18 minutes. This is called like a time weighted average for the price to come to you. Well, now if you're very quick, you can do a bit of recycling, which is not ideal for the test. So I'll account for the ultimate winner. I will account for anyone that's been abusing any strategy that's not close to reality. Because I've seen some players basically exploiting the fact that the testing phase is by design limited. We don't have many players, right? So if you have, for example, one player dumping the price and then pumping the price within a few hours, you can do that. And if no one is around challenging you by trading, swapping, and depositing, you may accumulate more than anyone else because no one is around. And this is due to the nothing to do with the protocol itself. It's just the design of the testing phase. We just have a handful of people, and not everybody's looking at the UI out of 70 every time. If we go live, the expectation is for having thousands of investors the first months, and the cycles are not 2 hours long. The days are not 4 minutes long, but much longer. And same thing for the TWAP. So it will be harder for anyone just to play the kind of strategy that some people have been using for now. Will be much harder to employ later. All right, Wickham, Warfield, welcome. With ETH going up by the time ULTI starts, the initial start day be adjusted for, as mentioned in the white paper. No, the price of ETH going up versus dollar has nothing to do with ULTI directly. So the ratio won't be changed. There's no reason why it should be range. We've been mentioning more than, I think, months ago that ETH will be the input token for the protocol. So there's been ample time for people to accumulate their ETH and then get their stack ready for ULTI. If you're just arriving, it is true that you will have to get more ULTI. Changing the initial ratio doesn't matter much the initial ratio could be very small, very large. It has no impact whatsoever on the overall economic. It's just a matter of optic. Is do you prefer to see a starting price basically at 0.0075, or do you prefer to see a starting price at $1 or $10? Starting price could be, I mean, it should be versus Ether, but reflecting in dollars, like we could start with a ULTI at $10. It's just that if the price goes up, it's just going to be bigger numbers. So we are really choosing the initial ratio. This is called unit bias, what you display to users based on because of the potential for growth. It's always good to start a bit lower to be able to psychologically validate a couple of key targets like 1 cent or $1, $10. If we're starting at $10, it's just psychological because your new targets would be $100, $1,000, right? So it doesn't make you richer because you will have less ULTI in that case. So here, starting with a lower ratio helps people to feel that they have they have millions of something, billions of something. So this is the advantage. It's more psychological / marketing play, but has no, based on just the tokenomic itself, has no impact. Now the tripod. This is very well explained in the white paper. 1 ETH will be equal to, I think it's 330,000 ULTI. Yeah, let me type it in the chat. At starting price should be that, if I'm not mistaken, is 33 and 4 zeros. That's the starting ratio. And regardless of the price of Ether versus USD, that should not change. All right, we're gonna start with just, we have more than 120 people now. I'm not looking so much at Twitter at the moment. Let's see if anyone suggested that they would join. No, cool. Let's look at DM. All right, that's been fairly quiet so far. It's maybe very early in the US where we have most of the audience, so I was expecting that. So, are there any questions so far? So, anyone in the chat on YouTube, do you have anything for me before I start just doing a quick overview of what can be done with ULTI? And we're going to start from the white paper because it's a good way to look at what's already being shared with you guys, and we can build up on top of that. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to look at the white paper. First of all, just a quick catch up on the competition. As you can see, we have in the smallest cohort, 1 player, 10 EA. It has nearly twice in terms of rank and dollar amounts more than the person behind them. But then there's someone also that has a lot of Ether waiting on the sideline. So you can imagine that person, depending on the price, someone could decide just to sell some ULTI or just to buy some ULTI, or doing a deposit basically at the right time, and that money would go much higher if the price comes back up, which is likely given the ever strengthening pump pool right now, right? So each purchase, the larger is the pump pool, the larger becomes each pumps, right? The liquidity pool is scaling up as well, but since some people have been selling and trying to do arbitrage back and forth, the ratio between basically the pump pool and the trading pool seems to be increasing, which makes each pumps even more impactful. So it's really cool things to see. In a sense, if you click on the price, you should see the market cap, by the way, right? So if it was not clear to you guys, it's something you can do. Very cool one, that little features. And it looks like right now the market cap is fairly matching. That's a very interesting matrix, because market cap historically, the definition is the amount of token in circulation multiplied by the price. In the case of ULTI, the overall value of the ULTI market cap should be, in general, a bit slightly higher than what is the pump pool, because it's kind of a leverage play on top of Ethereum. So if you do the sum of the Ether in the liquidity pool, short-term liquidity, the trading pool, and the pump pool, expect the market cap to be a multiple higher than that. In our case right now, people have been selling a lot of ULTI because we are really matching in terms of market caps. As you can see, we're at the end of the cycle, and yeah, there was an opportunity for all of the different participants just to try to use the pump pool as much as possible. So we may expand a bit the max pump for the testing phase to maybe 50, so that it's been utilized a bit more. So whether it's 50 or 100, we'll increase that limit a bit more, so that we try to utilize as much as it's allowed by the smart contract. So the target of utilization of the pump pool is about 33% on the yearly basis. So right now it's been maybe lower than that. So, but still we add these new features where we're going to be limiting the max amount of pump. And I think the nice way to see it is like, think of it as kind of a vote of confidence. Think about that number as like the weight. Let's say the limit is currently 33, or like about 33 for each individual guardians. It's basically guardians are basically saying, hey, I want to utilize the pump pool, I don't want to use it this cycle. So you could have some cycles like a bunch of guardians come in, and because there's a limit on the number of pumps, you don't have a runaway model where just the top three basically pumpers you utilize more than it should be, right? In bull market, in bear market, there are some consequences. Best investors buy low, sell high. You would want the pump pool to pump the most when the price is low, right? It gets a lot more ULTI, burns it. At the opposite, you would not want guardians. Guardians themselves should not want to utilize the community money, some of their own money, by buying the tops. If the markets are themselves wants to buy ULTI, right, and there is a price run because people are just spot buying ULTI on the market, well, it's a good news, because it means that all the investors that are relying on the pump pool as a backstop for value, future value, they're in a good shape. They're in a good shape because now they can wait for the market volatility on the upside just to cool down a bit, and when it starts cooling down, they can reutilize the pump pool. Obviously, I don't have. It's just suggestion. The people will do whatever they want to do, but this is a new model with the max, including a max for pumping, which was not the original design. Now it makes the protocol way more aligned with the overall philosophy of the protocol, where the guardians really, you respect their names. They're here to decide and vote with their pumps, basically, how much every cycles needs to be used. All right. All right. So let's talk strategy. Just I think you guys can look at the ranking and the plays yourself. It's been very dynamic. A lot of different players do a lot of different things. So very cool stuff. So to start learning about the tokenomics of ULTI, please read the white paper. The light version is about 2 minutes read. The long version, the white paper, was more like 20 minutes, really. It's quite intense. So what you should know about ULTI is, we're going to start with the overall design. It's all participants, basically, they all agree that they cannot be trusted. They cannot trust themselves DCA buying the price or DCAing out of the price. So they all agree to get an extra bonus, kickback from the Guardians bonus, the strike bonus, the referral bonus. Say, okay, let's put some Ether collectively in that pool. The pool will act as a collective DCA in, DCA out, by slowly reflecting the value of the economic energy in the pump pool into the price of ULTI. So that's, in a nutshell, really the core principle. There's not much strategy at this level. This is really the core foundational pillar of the protocol. Apart from the fact that if you were just to remove all the bonuses, the referrals, the contributors, and the streak, now you just have a bare bone minimal buyback and burn. So whoever is then it becomes like basic, simple DeFi meme coins with a bit of buyback and burn and internal revenue. So any speculation on the token basically creates some fees. The fees get reinjected into the protocol, right? So that's the easiest way to explain to someone. It's like, hey, this is just a collective reserve that's buying back slowly, releasing the energy of the pump pool. So the price of ULTI versus Ether is expected to go up over time as the pump pool is purchasing the price slowly. Now, if you introduce the bonuses, the incentive, the carrots for people to even consider depositing their ETH into the pump pool, these were, even though there's only three bonuses at the first version of the protocol at five other type of bonuses that we'll share later. But with three, that start having a lot of convoluted plays that people can engage, right? So we're gonna look into that today. I'm just keep on checking if anyone is interested about joining the stream. Not so far, yeah, no DM specifically. So I will keep talking myself. I actually have one question in DM. Okay, yeah, I'll just share the link so someone might just be interested in just joining, and maybe audio only. So feel free to join. Person is about to join also ask about TWAP and well trying to exploit it. Yeah. So the way the protocol works right now is when you're gonna actually look at the UI, that makes even more sense. There's two primary ways to get some ULTI, right? So either you buy it on the market, doing a swap, so you deposit some Ether and you get some ULTI in exchange, or you deposit some value here, right? In both cases, you get a certain amount of ULTI. We can actually have a look. I may take an account with a bit more. Yeah, that's a better example. Yeah. But the account I'm just looking at right now as 11 Ether. And so you have two options, right? You can either, I call it depositing, but it's a way to buy ULTI with extra bonuses. And the ratio of ULTI you get for the Ether depends on TWAP, also known as time-weighted average price. What is it? It's basically taking all the volatility of the price over a period of, say, n amount of minutes, could be hours, could be days. You decide that parameters, and then giving an average. So the rate is averaging the rates of regardless of volatility. The advantage of using it, or the reason why TWAPs are often used in such protocols, is you don't want people to manipulate the market in the very short term and give them a rate. So right now there's something, one of the limitations of the testing phase. You will understand what's happening there. That's why I'm trying to see how much I can modulate the dynamics of the testing phase to make sure that people are not silly. Yeah, it's a bit silly, but exploiting the limitation of the testing phase. Because the TWAP currently implemented in the smart contract is about 18 minutes. If you divide 18 minutes by 365, right, the accelerated mode of the protocol, you end up with 3 seconds. So one play could be for you just basically to sell your ULTI. Then the price gets updated about 3 seconds later, fairly close to the new market price, and then you do a deposit. In real time, if you were to be a significant holder of ULTI, a whale, if you were to drop dump, take profit, however you call it, ULTI for some profit, you would not be able just to do a short-term recycling, right? Because the TWAP would take about 18 minutes to kick in. And along the way, the markets, it could be humans, it could be bots, can come in and start themselves depositing at different rates as the TWAP is slightly approaching, coming down and approaching the actual market rate. So here's a small example. I don't think it will be significant in terms of impact because we just looking with 11 Ether. So this is the expected, looking at TWAP, this is the expected amount of ULTI. And you see, if we are buying on the market, yeah, you start occurring some slippage based on the size of liquidity pool. So for many, the larger of an investor you are, the more likely you're incentivized just to use the deposit pool, right? This is by design. So right now in the testing phase, there are some limitation. Just because of TOAP price is every few seconds being updated, so it comes down really quickly from the deposit price, and some people are, in a sense, kind of exploiting that. It's a very blurry line because yeah, one thing that could have been made maybe the experience better or more closer would have been just to try to simulate a TWAP that is a bit, not catching up as fast for the testing phase. Hasn't been done. The only thing we modify from the smart contract for the testing phase is the speed of a lot of different variables, but not the TWAP, and the amount of gradients, 7 instead of 33. So these are the things to consider, guys. I want to make sure that everybody understands. The deposit is a kind of a swap, of a different kind of swap. You just wait 1 day to get your token, and it comes with no slippage, very important, and potential bonuses. So it's kind of a super swap. You can think about the deposit as a super swap. Why it's a super swap? We're incentivizing depositors just to come in because we want the pump pool to grow. Here's just an example of the pump pool has been growing a lot, right? And even when we've seen when the price goes down, because new entry price for people to get opportunity for them to get more ULTI, they start depositing their ETH over there versus buying on the market because they get a better rate. Because they get a better rate over there, they contribute to increase the size of the pump pool. So I think now that we have all the mechanics, like the basic mechanics of ULTI, buying on the market versus depositing, where you would be depositing, what are the implications of depositing versus depending on the amount of token you have. If we are just to an example with 0.1 ETH, smaller players, they are less impacted by that. We're going to make the example with 0.1 ETH, but the amount of tokens should be nearly close. Yeah, you still have a bit of slippage or fees. You also have the fees of the pool, the 1%. So really, even for smaller player, at some point, you need to ask yourself, okay, you get, you pay 1% more, basically. At the minimum, you pay 1% more because of the fees. Even if you don't have any slippage, you will pay the fees to the pool. So large players are very impacted. I'll give you an example quickly right now. If someone wants to buy 100 Ether, 1,000 Ether, that would not work because I don't have enough amount. So I'll just select another test account with a bit more, give you a sense. So if someone were to buy 100 Ether, what's the value, right? So they would basically have the price slipping against them, and they would collect for 100 Ether, they would collect way less, 20% less in terms of ULTI than what they would have gotten if they had to play the deposit game. You see, 176 million ULTI on one end and 216 ULTI without even accounting for bonuses, right? You just need to wait 24 hours and you get 20% more. So the deposited, even for large player, the depositing of ULTI is more enticing. Some of it has to do with the fact that the ratio between the pump pool and the trading pool is such that, yes, the liquidity here might not be able to support early on too much of what you want to purchase on both sides, if you want to sell it or even purchase it. So the volatility is expected on both sides. We're considering actually, based on the data we're collecting from the testing phase, we're starting to explore, is the ratio good enough, right? So, okay. Oh, I got Neo that just joined. Okay, I'm gonna add that.
Hello, Steph.
Neo, you've been added. So if you want to speak, say something. If not, I'll carry on.
Can you hear me?
A great question about TWAP, and yes, I hope I answered everything. You had any comments or follow-up question with what I said about TWAP?
Can you hear me? Hello?
All right, so I cannot hear you, so maybe you didn't set up your audio. Let me know if you want to say something. I'm going to carry on
Testing.
and go back to
Testing.
Wow, the price is going up. It means that, see, we just, at the end of the cycle, people keep on pumping in the list of potential pumpers.
Testing.
And we're about to enter a new cycle. So we'll see
Hello?
who become TC start pumping the price, the pump pool. Because you can see that as the pump pool increases, if the trading pool is not catching up with the pump pool, there's more deposit over time. You end up in a situation that each pumps, even though they scale together, what doesn't scale is the selling, right? If a few people, every deposit, basically you have 97% of the ether that goes into the pump pool, 3% that goes into trading pool. But every time someone is selling, they're reducing basically the relative ratio. You would have expected that the ratio would be 97.3 and instead of same, but someone selling, that ratio now is less than 97 or more than 97.3. It could be 90, 98 or 99 to 1, which means that the impact of any pump increases with people selling, right? So that's a very, very interesting dynamic there. So basically, if anyone is selling, basically, they give an opportunity to the community. The pump basically is actually catching up and buying the lows, is being more aggressive at buying just because of the ratio itself and because the price is lower. So that's kind of like compounding the strength of the pump pool. All right, we see that the market cap now is catching up, is even increasing compared to the sum of the pump pool and trading pool. So that's nice to see. Yeah, bots are not interacting too much, guys. They're just every few hours. They're just injecting a bit of liquidity. They haven't touched anything for the past few hours, 3-4 hours. So this is just a market, basically, different participants adjusting. I think we have more active participants that we used to have the first 2 days. I think people are just catching up. We have more of the testers that just join later in the process. You know, they were either busy with their personal life and just catching up with the test. So we see some of their initial ETH allocation being utilized right now. All right, let's go back to streaming and see if we have any questions. We can hear Neo. Why cannot I cannot hear him? Oh, okay. I'm just catching up now. I cannot hear you for the reason that I cannot explain. Audio.
I think we're good.
All right, I was not set up the right way, guys. Had my setup inverted. Neo, you want to say something?
Yeah. Hi, Steph. Sorry about that.
No, that's me. I should have I should have looked at the chat earlier. Yeah, sorry. Might have been awkward. Yeah, let's go back to the question about TWAP. I think you've been one of the most committed testers so far. I've seen a lot of activity coming from you. You've been able just to show to everybody how the protocol can be used in different fashions, especially by the larger players. And as I mentioned, TWAP currently in the testing phase can be more exploited because the TWAP is catching up too quickly with the deposit price and letting any smart tester to basically try to having a better rate, basically having a better rate in recycling their ULTI, selling and recycling their ULTI if if no one is purchasing or just front running them when they sell.
So you said TWAP in the real world is 8 minutes?
It's 18 minutes.
80 or 8? Sorry.
18.
18.
1/8.
Okay, yeah. So like what would, because I would assume most people are in America, so if somebody did want to exploit that, they could just do it at like 4 a.m. or something. And you think enough people would be active to be able to prevent that? I was saying something about limit orders would be able to prevent that maybe, but
yeah, I mean, TWAP could have been adjusted. But the typical example is, let's say, day one. Let's say you have, for the sake of the example, 1,000 participants, right? And out of the 1,000 participants, maybe 2 or 3 of them have a disproportionate. It's the real distribution of wealth in the world. You have a few participants that are way more than others. They would probably get a good guardians bonus initially, assuming that there's a lot of people that want to participate the first cycle, maybe a bit more than the second cycle. So far, what we see when new protocols are being launched, because of that initial bonus, well, the bonus itself doesn't matter. They would need to wait 3 cycles to get it anyway. But their first deposit, one thing they could be doing, they could try to scare off the market early on. Say, okay, we're gonna sell, expect other people to sell below them, and try to re-enter with some level of deposit, whatever ether they've gotten, a deposit at a lower price, and basically they got accumulated by the scaring tactic. They accumulated more ULTI that they would have had otherwise with this single deposit. This strategy is less likely to work really well on the real world than in testing, just because of the acceleration. In testing, the TWAP is catching up with the market price within a few seconds. In the real world, it would take about 20 to 30 minutes really to have that price coming down. So as the TWAP is coming closer to coming down, when someone were to sell, coming down closer to the market price, then yes, that seller could start employing that strategy. But within that 30 minutes window, you're not immune to having any bots. If you're the large sales, and we see it, there's a lot of MEV and bots that are coming to jump in, look at the price, look at historical performance, and that do arbitrage, right? So that large seller, would have to fight against arbitrage bots and other market participants that see that the TWAP is coming down because of the sell, and that themselves, they cannot enter, have a deposit. So it also gives opportunity for any other players watching, having a bit of ether on the side, to come in at this. So it's a bit more risky strategy in real time, in a real environment than on the testing environment.
I think something that would help would be something like pulse alerts, where there's like a Twitter account that says, "Oh, this account sold 100 million or whatever." Expect the price to go down, and then people can set up alerts so they can see it even at 3 a.m. or something. I don't know.
So there's a few things that could be done, right? And currently, it's good that this thing is really good, because you could say, well, let's try to make the TWAP less responsive than it is right now, and instead of being 20 minutes, it could be 1 hour, right? So anyone that would want to employ that strategy was saying, okay, I've got 10% of the ULTI supply across all participants. I can scare off people and try to accumulate even more later. I mean, there's two difficulty with that strategy, which is not the case for the testing phase, because the goal of the testing phase for any participant is to accumulate more of each asset over time just to win the prize. In real life, because it's not bounded in time and you don't have this price, any investors that come in and destroy the price employing that strategy, even if they try to scare off, it's not guaranteed to work. Again, you could have all these different other factors that say, well, this cheap price, I'm just jumping in ahead of the person that decided to dump the price. And also, you take the risk as an investor to lose value, right? There's no guarantee for the large world to do that, saying, hey, I will not recoup my investment. So it's hard for me to imagine a world where someone is depositing 100 ether. When we launch in December, 100 ether, 1,000 ether or more, accumulate more ULTI than anyone else on the market, and all of a sudden decide, because the liquidity has not been built up already, they would not just simply not recoup their investment, right? They may actually get more, even if they're very successful, they may get more ULTI in the process, but then they take the risk of psychologically damaging the price and their investment.
So it's a fairly risky situation.
Right.
But in the testing thing, you don't have these constraints because everybody's targeting for five days from now. So the goal is a bit different because it's bounded in time. So in real environments, it's open-ended, and a lot of investors. I mean, someone that drops 1,000 ETH. I know a few investors that may look at these levels when we launch. This kind of like a noise I've heard in backstage. It would be fairly stupid of them to dump the price when this is a very new asset and we're not in the bull market, right? So it's what you've seen with the injection of liquidity by bots. It's the assumption that we were launching in a bull market and you have a lot of liquidity pouring there. So even if you wanted to apply this strategy, is it the right time to do it, right? Maybe you can do that at the beginning of the bear market and try to create this waterfall ahead of time. But right now this is the current situation. Any other question, Leo?
Well, just to confirm, the winning criteria is just the most amount of dollars. It could be either ETH or ULTI.
Liquid. Yeah, liquid.
Okay. And I was just saying.
Go ahead.
About the, I don't know if you want to talk about the testing phase or just real life, but
could do both.
It could be manipulated near the end, like 10 minutes before somebody would sell a bunch of ETH, would sell a bunch of ULTI into ETH, so the price would drop a bunch, so the people with ETH would be able to have more value.
Yes, that's a very fair statement. The question is like, is enough people aware about it? It's good to have this stream because the more people are aware about the situation, the more people can start deciding when is the right time to sell, right? And do you create something cascade? And does the pump pool will be able to catch up fast enough with the price decreasing? Will the bots do some intervention there, right? These things are happening. Liquidity is being injected a bit randomly throughout the day. So again, that's a gamble. One option could be, and I think I'm just willing to hear from feedback from all the participants. What they seem, we're still 5 days away from the end. We could decide just to either disable or at least limit the impact of swapping down the line. Right? The more the time passes, basically the impact, the amount of token that you can sell with your balance could be decreased. That could be a strategy, right? No cutoff, no disabling, a strong disabling. But the closer you get to the final line, the less you can of ULTI you can sell. That could be the thing I'm implementing. So. All right. I will take another question here. Which moves were the most surprising to me? I mean, I spent the past year thinking about ULTI, so I think I was most of the things I've seen, I was expecting. The only thing I think I was underestimating, I would have maybe changed that in the trading phase, is I would have created a cohort of traders because I would have created more pressure on the other cohorts that are not that are playing slightly different games. So the trader cohorts would only be able to sell and buy basically. In their UI is just about like trading the price. They would have put the pressure on the strategy that we were just discussing with Neo earlier, because now you compete against traders that are just trying to take opportunities on the price going down, just to do arbitrage against you. So I would have loved to have that. It would have changed the slightly dynamics of the testing phase. I would have loved to have implemented strongly at the smart contract level the max pump limit. I had a couple of discussions with another friend earlier, but I did not went ahead with the implementation. Based on the last audit we had coming back earlier this week, there was something mentioned about the top pumper bonus. Right now it was the top 3 guardians pumping would get an extra kickback. that creates a very specific dynamics because the incentive is such that you get incentivized just to pump the price, you get some extra bonuses, but then you could consider that now the pump pool, basically the guardians are not really guardians of the pump pool. They don't really care about the pump pool utilizing it. They just want to pump the most and go to the max rate. Well, in real life condition, if you have thousands, tens of thousands, millions of investors that deposit their value collectively into a pump pool that is meant to buy back the price, you would wish, an investor in that type of product would wish that the guardians have or named properly guardians because they are a bit more diligent about the use of the pump pool. So changing the max pump, I'm gonna show you see the UI again. Changing these instead of having no limit, the limit the pumps for each cycles in total. It's 864. So every cycle here we're way lower than that, right? Normally that's something to consider. The price should be the pump pool should be utilized way more. That's also one of the factors why it's not going down as fast. So imagine that this roughly 900 available pumps would be shared or distributed across the 33 guardians. That's about 26 the 26 pumps. So doing that limit is great because it's kind of a vote of confidence from the guardian saying, hey, I'm guardian the cycle, I referred the most or I deposited the most. So I'm actually telling, and maybe guardians, but I think that could be the price going up and people are buying on the market. There's no need to utilize the pump pool. And it's going to be a weighted vote from all of the guardians saying, hey, only half of the guardians want to use the pump pool to this cycle. And so half of the utilization that is allowed by the smart contract will be done. So that makes the dynamics more interesting. The philosophical values of the guardians is going to be more ethically bounded to their task and going to make a bit more about what they want to do, right? It avoids having just one guardians participating and doing max pump nonstop.
I think something that I think the vote is a good idea for the real world launch, but for the testing scenario, we go a lot of cycles with very few pumps.
True.
And I think that it's going to be there's going to be a lot more pumps in the real world scenario. Because right now the price is actually below the initial price of 0.0075, right? So it should be like in a real world scenario, people would be pumping it 800 times per cycle right now. But since we're restricted, we're not doing that.
Yes, so that was one of, I think, the feedback that was mentioned, I think, by you and 3 other folks. So we are here to learn. So when we scale down with that limit of 33, 34, it changes a bit the dynamics. We learn a lot. Right now, the pump pool has a lot of potential that is accumulating and is not nearly utilizing it what it could be utilizing. So at the top, the target is 33% of the pump pool utilized within a year. So we're going to boost up again that there was no limit at the first of the testing phase. We're going to move towards, because only 7 guardians. Yeah. The idea is to target numbers more close off the max, but still having the distribution is good across the guardians. So you cannot have one guardians controlling entirely by themselves the pump pool. Which what we've seen a few times in the past is like a few guardians saying, hey, just really having the monopoly on the pump pool. And so if you do that in a time period where other testers, in the case of testers, are sleeping or not over there, then you give an advantage to the guardian being around and not having any trading cohorts challenging whatever that guardian is doing with the pump or selling. But we will increase it. That's a very fair comments. The pump pool is not utilized enough. So we'll increase that limit. It's going to could be 99 per, there's 7 guardians. So 7 guardian guardians times 99. That'll go to 700 pumps. Yeah, if that's closer to the max amount, so either 99 or 110, 110 or 120. How does that sound?
I think that would be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be closer to the rate, basically the ratio you would get with 33 guardians and a max of 34. Because we have 7 guardians, we can increase that max basically by the prorated equivalent. So I think it's about 110, 120. I need to do the math exactly. All right. Let's move on to the question. With the cost of frequent pumping on the mainnet, do you think this could hinder the pumping needed? If that makes sense. I think you mean the cost of gas price, right? So in the real scenario, we're expecting the guardians to have dropped a lot of ether, right, in the project. So I doubt that they're going to be concerned with pumping. If they are concerned about pumping, then they may not want to pump and let someone else pump for them.
Well, right now each pump is worth 0.6 ETH. So as long as the fees are less than 0.6 ETH, it's a net gain.
It depends. I think what was the question about that? What's the question about the, because if you have 900 pumps, you split them across all the 33 pumpers. It's like, yeah, if all of them just pumps, I don't know, 20 times, yeah, are they concerned about the gas costs, right, of pumping? I think the cost of pumping is about twice the price, or a bit less than twice the price of a swap. I think a swap is about 160,000 unit of gas. In the case of the pump, it's about 250. So it's a bit more than a swap. And you may expect, yes, every 55 minutes, you may expect, if you need to pay something a bit more than a swap, like 30 times, and you're a large whale or a large investor, I'm not concerned about gas. But even if we go into a very crazy regime in terms of gas cost, it won't happen every time, and it will be distributed because these pumps are happening every 55 minutes. So there's going to be plenty of options for guardians to come in when the GUE is a bit lower than when it's high. So we might actually, see if the guardians are very cheap, as they don't want to pay the Ethereum network gas fees, they may say, okay, let's pump a bit less right now, and I'll just use my gas or my Ethereum a bit later. I hope that was the question. What was your point, I think, Neo, about the 0.6 ether?
Well, each pump is basically pumping 0.6 ether into the trading pool.
Yes,
right, buying. Yeah, so as long as the ETH prices or the gas fee is less than that, I think people will do it. And then also about the thing about the BNB buying back and burn, or buying back during the bear market, I think this will has a good chance of outperforming in the bear market for sure, because it'll have all of the pump pool liquidity from the bull market, and that'll just still be reflected back.
Yeah, the beauty is that most other protocol don't have a pool fairly well loaded waiting for them in the bear market. And I think the best example I gave in early streams of ULTI was the business case of Binance and BNB. The company is generating a lot of business activity, fees. Unfortunately, they're liquidating a lot of their users, inviting them to trade when they should not. But in any case, they make a bunch of revenue. That revenue is being used on the quarterly basis to buy back and burn the price of ULTI, of BNB. And I look at the chart a few times, and it looks like they have a better resistance to bear market in terms of price than others. So I think that model is highlighted in the white paper. I call it it's a section called bear market resistance. This is speculation, right? There's nothing guaranteed, guys. But if you couple that with the fact that guardians themselves, they have financial incentive to see the protocol do well and the pump pool not to be used wrongly, I truly believe that if there's less pumps in bull market and more pumps in the bear market, that we have a very, very nice clean chart in comparison to the extreme volatility, like minus 90% that we've seen in other smaller cap coins. That should be well mitigated, as long as even if we were using all max pump every cycle, that should even then that should do well. But you can imagine that if things are not pumped that much during the bull market, basically the reserve has even more potential to buy back the price when people start to take profit on their ULTI at the top or along the way when everything is retracing. All right. Hi, Luke. No, sorry, that's okay. Yeah, that was about gas cost. Okay, we got it right. All right, let's just look at the. I keep delaying that, but let's look quickly at a few things that are interesting for the white paper. Again, guys, the goal with the testing phase and these streams is for spreading as much alpha to most participants as possible. So it's really a philosophical statement where thousands of people will come in and they would have received a fairly similar amount of education about the ULTI protocol. You could call it a financial game. And what you want to make a game very interesting, imagine a board game where only one player, you have 10 people, 10 friends coming around, you only have one player that knows at the expert level the game, and all the other ones, they don't know the game, the nuances. That creates a situation where one is having maybe a bit more fun than the others. And that creates a situation that these 9 other players, they don't want to play anymore, right? So we want all players to have something for them, right? You want to leave meat on the bone for everybody, whether you're a small investor, large investor, you have a lot of influence or with your audience, right? Or you're a fan of game theory and you want to give something for everybody. So that was the goal. Like, how do you balance different audiences and profile? And I think we have a fairly good balance compared to what's existing right now on the market. All right, so let's go directly to this key strategic insight. I think you read, guys, if you're here, I'm suspecting that you read the white paper. So I'm just gonna go through the one that seems very interesting. All right, we start with all these different insights and then we'll just focus on different profile. So patience is rewarded. So because the pump pool is slowly buying back the price, anyone selling the price too early of ULTI basically is foregoing their ULTI while their ether that they deposited in will buy back the price of ULTI above them, right? So it leaves basically a lot more liquidity for people that have been patient, right? Sustainable tokenomics. Yeah, that one is interesting. People, I think, keep maybe not think too much about it or dismiss it. But if the token, and we've seen the case in the testing phase, and it's likely to be the case as well in real life because of the ratio pump pool, liquidity pool, the volatility creates a demand and speculation for people to come in that generate fees, and that revenue basically is recycled into the protocol. The fees in ULTI terms, they're being burned, and the fees in ETH terms, they're being reinjected into the pump pool. If we're in a bull market, you can expect a lot of volatility, a lot of speculation, a lot of trading. And so you can imagine that liquidity pool, collective liquidity pool, will be whatever it's generating on the yearly basis. It could be, if it's 1% with a lot of volume, that may create a situation where whatever inflation is in the protocol basically it could be absorbed by that revenue. So it's really hard to model because it depends. The inflation is dynamic and going down over time with ULTI. It's not high, especially on the referral, the guardians bonus. They get basically reduced over time. The strike bonus, it remains very high over time, while, because it's the hardest by far. I will cover it. Hardest strategy just to sustain over time, especially if Ether goes up in dollar terms, or even the price of ULTI goes up. Then you need to make a trade-off in terms of like, does the strike bonus pays you more than the price appreciation? Otherwise, you maybe should have deposited at earlier in the cycle and having a better rate, more ULTI for that. So it's by far, I think, the hardest to pull. That's why the 32%, max 32% is being paid there, because I don't expect actually many players just to go down that road. If a lot of participants were to do all perfect streaks, say, well, all playing that game, basically the streak game, that means you have infinite amount of Ether being added every time someone deposits. So whatever inflation you pay them, actually doesn't even matter, because they would be depositing sustainably more Ether cycle, or deposit cycle after cycle. So until obviously they might run out of ETH at some point, but that creates a really, really giant war chest that is very, very healthy for the ecosystem. Okay. Yeah, so Luke's saying, bro, you create white paper expert with the stating phase, I guess. Must have read it like 10 times, discovering new angles. I'm glad that you're telling that you're discovering new angles, because even myself, sometimes I'm thinking about a few things that I didn't thought before. So the beauty of ULTI is like, it's believed to have some sort of downside protection. The economic energy is stored in the pump in the pump pool. So really it's up for grab for if everybody was losing interest in ULTI for whatever reason. There was a better game in town or whatever, and everybody wants to exit. Well, everybody has the option to say, well, I'm gonna wait for that economic energy just to be reflected back to me, right? What it means is like at every pump, basically, you want people to get some of that price appreciation. So it might be you just may be able to put some liquidity there and having automated function just to extract a bit of value from the pump pool. Once the entire pump pool is fully depleted, you expect to have a spread of that economic energy spread. Economic energy spread across all the investors. So I'm not looking for the worst case scenario, but it has been thought about. And compared to other investments, here basically it's a leverage play on top of Ethereum. So your downside is the size of the pool, really. So that is here just to buy back the price. All right. I will skip these ones because it has nothing to do with strategy, so to speak. It's more high-level information. Let me scroll down. All right, this one is a very cool one because we're talking about strategy. It actually happened to me during the testing phase, right? I wanted to check. I had a couple of bots, and I wanted to check things up, and I had forgotten that we had this protection. I wanted to. It was very early cycles, I think cycle 8 or so. I want to check things up, and having a couple of bots entering the Guardians status, and completely reshuffle the existing player there, right? It was a cycle, I think, where there's not too many people that entered in terms of ETH, and so we did create a bit more competition. So what I did, I start activating these specific bots just there to enter the Guardians. I activate them like a noob on the last day of the. I really want to check things up for fun, and I'm like just triggering the function, and I'm like across my bots, and I was like, Jesus, they were supposed to take over. Like I had six bots, they were supposed to take over the entire Guardians ladder. They did not. And a few seconds later, I realized, oh, there is a sniping protection. Just calibrating to snipe basically a bit above the current deposit of the users, and yeah, the smart contract works. You are protected against last minute sniping, right? So that protection is dynamic days after days. So there's 2 levels to it. Basically, once you deposit, you get some ULTI minted in exchange, the base rate. That rate basically is discounted over time. The ULTI that you would be minting on your deposit, you have a kind of a shadow variable that is tracking that rate and multiplying with the discount. That discounted value the code is called discounted. Once the code gets released, you will see that it's called discounted contribution. Is the things that is used for calculating your ranking. So if someone were to deposit basically, and it's calculated for each deposit and accumulated. So if someone were to deposit early cycle, they get nearly 100% of the base rate really. And let's say someone were to deposit one ether there and one ether here, basically they would get an average contribution of like 1 unit and 0.26 unit, right? So currently the deposit form is not transparent enough or complex enough to show you, hey, be careful. That would we're already on day 29 of the cycle, day 23 of the cycle. If you're expecting to go to compete for the Guardians bonus, you would need that much, right? So that discounting rate will be shown in the UI as you deposit to make sure that, hey, if you're competing for each bonuses, basically you're gonna have more details. What are the boundary conditions? What do you need to get to get them? How much you could get? How much you're missing out on? Let's say if you don't have any referrals, you may be missing out some value. So yeah, last minute protection is really good when it comes to strategy, because if you're aiming at protecting your value, or even yourself competing as a Guardians, you know that the smart contract himself, like past 20 days or 25 days, it becomes harder for someone to take over above you. All right, so something to keep in mind. Let's look on time. Yeah, 9. Okay. So we'll see how it's hard to evaluate in testing phase. I haven't looked at the logs so far, but you can imagine when you have a fairly hefty Guardians price, you have 33 people, and anyone below them basically will have to decide when is the right time to take over. Did they can look at the address? Did they burn all of the ether already? Can I take over? It's going to be very, very interesting, I think, for all content creators that love tokenomics or love talking about products. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, Twitter bots, a feed itself in the app, just highlighting all of the different activity of the different participants, and see, for example, I imagine already a feed where one of the highlighted events would be Guardians number 33 and 32 have been taken over by 2 other accounts, right? And themselves, they had pumped 33 times, right? And now they don't get the extra bonus, right? So the pump bonus, because they've been just thrown out of the ranking. So okay, ULTIs for everyone. Yes, that was I was mentioning earlier. The hardest thing about designing ULTI, and you can fully understand that it's not the copy of anything, was to create a system that creates something exciting for everybody. Because the goal, if you want more a growth, the value of any token has to do with how much people just want to put more in themselves or by talking about it. So how do you create something that works for everybody, and it's not only for the whales or only for the little guys? So that's why the TC bonus has been created. The Guardians bonus, top contributor, that competition has been created for the larger player to come in and deposit. The streak bonus, same thing, has been more targeted as kind of a opposition to the streak bonus, because it's hard to do both, right? You can imagine if you need to have 100 ETH or 1,000 ETH to compete on a cycle and streak bonus, how can you sustain 100 Ether per cycle against during multiple cycles? One thing, because we're talking about strategy, one thing that could be done and I've seen maybe similar moves. I'm expecting to see this move for the testing phase. So please listen carefully. Is people depositing ever so increasing amount of ETH over time to be fairly reasonable with the amount deposited early on. You could imagine someone is depositing 0.01 ETH, like $30, $50 every cycle, and then once they start increasing their getting into higher percentage rate for the stake bonus, then they start scaling, right? They're already starting accumulating more, accumulating the rate, and they start scaling in the amount of ETH they deposit. Right? That strategy is very interesting, though you, in a sense, you gamble, because you gamble that the price of ULTI versus Ether is not increasing, right? You gamble if you don't have a stack ready already split across the board. You also gamble that you'll be able just to purchase more Ether at the same price that you were a few cycles ago, which is extremely unlikely given the volatility on the crypto market. So the streak bonus pays the most, right? Because there's no, let's say the protocol lives for hundreds of years. Yeah, all these prices won't be even like, we'll look at just 5-10 years. All these prices will move back and forth. So the likelihood for someone to be able to say, hey, I'm gonna play for the next 18 months or the next 4 years in ULTI, I'm already splitting my reserve stack of Ether and just play the streak bonus, right? So it's gonna be, first you need to the consistency, the discipline. You need to hope that you're not using that stack saved away on something else that you've been distracted with. And so we'll see a lot of people attempting to do a streak here. It's once basically it's based on cycle. You need to have at least the same amount of ETH or equal up until 10 times that amount, right? So you can actually scale up over time. You cannot scale down. Any question in the chat? Neo, something to add?
Yeah, I think having multiple different wallets, one specifically for the streak bonus, and just acquiring that 30% bonus on like 0.01 ETH,
Yeah.
and just having that in reserve, and then another wallet where you invest heavily in the beginning is a interesting idea. Because with the testing phase, I tried doing that. I thought of that. And then there was an opportunity where the price decreased a bunch. So I was like, okay, I need to cancel my streak. I need to hop in. So
yeah, this is expected also in real life because of volatility. At some point, you may have a user that has been already engaged in a streak for, let's say, 10, 20 cycles. We're talking about 2 years, right? 22 cycles is 2 years. The person has been very diligent. They're collecting that extra compared to a regular player. They're collecting 30%, right? And it's quite good because let's say you enter the bear market, you keep collecting that 30% extra because you're consistent. And in a sense, all the hundreds or thousands of players doing that, they're contributing to doing that bear market resistance we were discussing earlier, right? This really compounds and feed the beast, so to speak. But that's going to be very interesting because how consistent and rigorous are investors in crypto or in life at large, like, if you have a stack of ETH, do you actually use it the proper way or not? It's going to be very interesting. And then if there's new opportunity arising on the market, let's say the price of ULTI goes down a lot, right? Someone exiting, and then you say, oh, I love the product, but now I got an opportunity to deposit more and break my streak that I've been building for the past 2 years. So it's going to be a psychological element in terms of, okay, yes, I get more ULTI, but now, okay, I need to start from scratch. And then they need to start scratch. So maybe net, it is worse in the end, but this is going to be interesting to observe, especially because the streak bonus increase only kicks off after the 4th cycle. So if you were to break it, not only you start from scratch, for the first 3 deposits, you're not even, after you broke it, you're not even collecting any streak bonus anymore. Right. Did we add anything from the past strategic insight? Yes, we've seen that in the testing phase. I was mentioning it earlier. The protocol strongly incentivizes you to large players to deposit versus market buying, right? The liquidity being built up is auto-scaling, but it's a full range liquidity. So if you have 3% of the value and then it's full range, so you make it it's broad but quite thin. So any larger players that comes in and say, hey, I'm interested in scaling into ULTI, if they want the most amount of ULTI, they almost have no choice. Either because you could say, well, they could do some sort of DCA limit order strategy on the price, they can come in, but at the same point they would forego a lot of money, because for them, they get their ULTI back with the claim 24 hours later. And if they were to buy on the market versus depositing the Ether into the protocol, well, they could make even more ULTI with the bonuses, right? So the design of the protocol has been done that for large depositors, small depositors, I would be surprised, and I think that's a value that we'll just want to display on the app. What is the percentage of ULTI that is acquired from Uniswap, from buying on the spot market, versus doing deposits and claims? If that number, I assume it to be lower than 20%, right? Ideally, it should be 5% if people have read a lot of people don't read, but I'm expecting it to be fairly low. But if that rate is very high, let's say 30% of people buying on the market and not depositing, that would mean that maybe I've failed the indication, or it means that the mania of the bull market is such that people don't mind. They're just throwing money at anything that they see, tickers they see on coin listing site. And here they see ULTI going up and say, wow, I need to be in. They don't do their research. They spot buy. What spot buying implies basically the impulsive, impatient users would deposit their ETH into the trading pool instead of depositing it into the pump pool, giving early liquidity for the older investors, right? So it really rewards the people that do their research and are more patient. But I like to display that rate on the UI. Percentage of ULTI gathered from deposit versus spot buying. Yes, competitive growth. So we see the protocol has this guardians bonus, which is fairly competitive. The higher basically the amount of guardians bonus there is, meaning if we have a long tail of investors, and this is something we're going to test soon in the testing phase. I made an announcement today. You will see a bit more liquidity injected via adding a longer tail of investors. That are going to be very, very interesting for any participant in the testing phase or in real time to come in and say, well, I may make that tail is very long, and I may be making 20%, 30%, 2x more in guardians bonus if I'm participating today. If that happens, right? If the price is so compelling, you expect the competition to increase, which is beautiful, because that's, I think, the most one of the most beautiful part of the protocol. Imagine you have thousands or 10,000 smaller participants. These cycles are depositing 0.018 or 1 right? There's some inflation minted. 3% of what they get in ULTI, it gets minted and get allocated to the guardians. So a huge wave of smaller fishes basically attracts larger whales. Larger whales themselves, by depositing their ETH in the protocol and competing to get that price, in turn generate confidence, psychological confidence across the entire investor base, which may increase even the amount of smaller investors joining this cycle or follow-up cycles. So this is very, very interesting, where again there's a balance between pull and push, or in that case pull and pull design. All right, let's see if we have questions. Okay, we have Luke that says, I broke my streak of 32 because I increased the deposit amount by too much when I FOMO bought the dip. That's exactly the case that we were highlighting. So not only I think Neo, we also have Luke, we have a few players that, okay, someone sold. And when you do that, it's really beautiful, because basically you're breaking your bonuses, but then you get more ULTI. At the same time, you kind of reinvest in the protocol, because you have some ETH in the sidelines, and now the pump pool does what it's designed to do, which is absorbing. I don't want to go back to the absorbing more ether. We see that the absorption has been really good over time. Does the pumping increase the amount of ETH in the liquidity pool because ULTI gets burned leaving ETH? Yes. Pumping basically just a transfer of value. Right? So it's a basic transfer of value from the pump pool, which is the long-term pool, to the short-term pool, which is liquidity pool. The ETH is transferred. A small amount of ETH right now is 0.6 ETH right now, with the amount of 0.6 ETH gets transferred over. So it's reflected in the price, and the contract obviously gets, because it's a buyback, gets some ULTI, but that ULTI is burned. Buyback and burn. All right, let's move on quickly, because time is passing quickly as well. Yes, this one is cool. First mover advantage. So depending on how the protocol will attract new investors over time, it's expected to be more advantageous to be early for multiple reasons. Like, first of all, you have these bonuses with the adoption multiplier, which make them more attractive early than later. But also, if you have, let's say, a bunch of investors that are investing the first cycle, right? And then the protocols gets more adoption, right? It's bull market, it gets 2 times, 3 times, 10 times more people coming cycle 2, 3, 4. Collectively, right? The amount of ether they bring to the pump pool increases over time, right? So whoever would have been doing a bit of selling in meantime, that ratio increases. I mean that each pumps gets even stronger. So something to keep in mind. The earlier you are in this protocol, the better you're expected to do. Not only because you know how it would work, but also because that pump pool basically is strengthening over time. Right? So I did a couple of calculations doing testing earlier, and even though both are scaling in terms of ETH being supplied, because of that recycling of even the revenue, the pump pool overtakes the liquidity pool over time. It keeps becoming stronger and stronger as the time passes. The only thing I haven't been tested so far is what happens when we are in real environments, when other market makers or liquidity provider comes in and say, hey, there's some activity there's some fees to be made. There's a pump pool buying back the price. Here, at the worst case scenario, the pump pool is basically giving me some fees there. So that liquidity that you see right now, very thin and very volatile on the testnet, is also not fully reflecting the real environments, because it's expected to have a few market makers providing liquidity.
Well, also, people will be incentivized to provide 0.1% liquidity pools.
Exactly.
So would that be with the front end on ulti.org would only be the 1% liquidity pool?
Yes.
Even though users might get a better deal if there's more liquidity or an amount of liquidity on the 0.1%.
That's a very, very fair point. It's been also shared by other community members that love providing liquidity across different protocols. And for the testing phase, actually, I rebuilt. I hope you guys appreciate. I spent 2 days nonstop, like going crazy to rebuild the more modest version of Uniswap. So I deployed the contract. I had to understand like fully how Uniswap itself is actually 4 different contracts. So as I was a bit convoluted just to get everything to put together. Especially when you want a quote, the quote that you see there is the contract itself that gives you the estimation. I built that swapping interface really for testing, but I also had in mind a few months ago that for reducing friction, it's better to have all things together in one platform, right? You don't want people. So why should people go to a block explorer? Why should people to go to Uniswap or another text front end, right? So having all of these things together would be very helpful for reducing friction, increasing stickiness. As it relates to the fee of the liquidity position held by the smart contract, it's been suggested, because I really want the contract to be immutable forever, it has been suggested that the fee of 1% will be obviously competed against with smaller pool, especially as it grows. You can imagine the liquidity is so much, the number of holders of ULTI in the world is such that 1% pool basically is not, it keeps on growing with the scale, but is now being competed away, for the revenue, is being competed away by other liquidity providers. So it's been suggested that as the contract scales in terms of users, in terms of deposits, that the fee percentage basically being changed. You move to basically different position with the maturity of the product to avoid basically being undercut in terms of revenue by any third-party liquidity provider. It is still not clear if I will implement that, because that implies more features, more audits, and one call could be that the base pool is the 0.3%, and this way we have, I think, for many years enough room ahead of us for not having too much competition on that protocol liquidity position. All right, let's check the chart. Nothing new. So let's go back to, things are cruising along.
Well, so something someone would do if they minted a bunch of ULTI, they could put just a one-sided liquidity, very thin, on the 1%, and the pump pool would just be buying into it, so the price would never increase unless it eats through all of that liquidity.
That would be a way for someone that wants to exit without impacting the price, right? So someone with a lot of ULTI could say, hey, I want to exit, but I don't want to sell. So I let the pump pool basically exit into me. It has been suggested by a few. This is crazy. People are digging so deep. It has been suggested by 3 people that fully understood and read the smart contract, that if that were to happen, some of these people have a bit of capital and be willing to break such walls to get the price and get the liquidity pool just moving past the pump basically pool moving past that point. So we'll see how the market dynamics evolved, but I can see a couple of different players that on both sides of the coins. If someone were to sell, someone might want to buy into that liquidity, right? Someone that don't want to use, for whatever reason, the deposit. I really don't understand why someone would not want to do that. Or someone that wants to maybe protect value for the protocol. They're already a large investor in the protocol, and they want to break that sell wall. they might just grab the ULTI from that seller, break the wall, and let the pump pool go past that price point. So these are very advanced discussion, guys. This is probably some of the tokenomic discussion that are way above most of the audience. So I'll try just to get us refocused a bit on some cool stuff that could be done as well in terms of plays. Let's go back. Where were we? All right, for everyone, competitive quadrants, smart rhythm manipulation. Okay, well, that's nothing to do with strategy. Oh yeah, that one is a very big one. It has a lot of, maybe is the strategic insight that has the most consequences for the contract. I will just cover it. So because the smart contract is permissionless, there is nothing preventing anyone to collaborate and come together to say, well, I want to, the Guardian's bonus every cycle, they're so tasty. And so imagine you have 1,000 little fishes that are just way past the top 33 contributors, but say, well, collectively, we are worth a Guardians. So let's try to all come together and compete and get that prize. I'm assuming this play will be done. I mean, we've seen it in the other projects in the past. People use the most of what they can do just to make a bit more money. If that were to happen, basically what it does, it reduces, it may have some negative impact on the Guardians bonus, because it reduces the incentive for Guardians to come in, and now they need to split even the prices. Now you have a collective Guardians basically that sits in with them, which is the combo of a bunch of other investors, right? So now they need to split basically their price with them. So this is something that has been highlighted in the as you can see in the white paper. The main risk I've seen a couple of pools for different contracts being created. The main risk that I see is someone to market a pool that come in, they market a pool that come with another token. That leads to dilution of value for the ULTI protocol, right? So the best, as a protocol founder, the best way to protect value for ULTI is not to having someone that say, well, I got this collective pool and please use my pool, because if you use that pool, you get that token on top of ULTI, and then you distract and dilute users. So the best way for me to let people engage in that practice, but without having them diverting economic value or being distracted, would be myself to build a collective deposit contract with a couple of cool features. So that would be increase the guarantee of safety for users, that they're not going to be rug pull, because that's the risk as well. If you do a collective pool, people are going to make promises. You don't know if the person is going to not run out with the money. It has also some consequences in terms of referrals, or who is pumping, right? If you have 1,000 individuals that are all in the collective pool, that collective pool allows these 1,000 investors to press the buttons. There's a lot of it's not as stressful. It might be tempting for some people, but both in terms of like extracting value for themselves, taking the risk, not being able to engage with the features. So I'm considering just building one that is really fun and well rewarded. And one thing that could be cool is that because ULTI.org, I just had a discussion with my lawyer today. We're gonna be incorporating a non-profit corporation for being the owner of the ULTI.org domain. Right. This is the only thing that is proprietary right now, is maybe the brand and the owner, the domain. The ULTI.org itself will optionally allow the user to use ULTI.org as a referrer, so to get some kickback, 11% for the person being referred. All this ULTI collected by the foundation will be used for reinjecting into the protocol. Will never be sold. It will be rejected. And this is the perfect example. Imagine that myself, as a member of the ULTI Foundation, I'm creating this collective deposit contract. one way to, and there's a competing set of like very well-intended developers that also built their own deposit pools. They're trying to market them, right? And maybe they take a little fees or something like that. Well, just to outcompete them, what could be done is just to make sure that the ULTI collected as reward referral fees from the foundation could be used as extra bonus kickback for people using the, I don't like the term official because it's I will call it canonical, right? The canonical pool created by the ULTI Foundation will incentivize people basically with a bit of extra ULTI that were collected from fees, from referral bonuses, to have people using that pool versus another. So there is a few ways. This one is, I think, one of the most critical for the stability of the Guardians bonus. And luckily, I thought really, really deeply about it. I look at a lot of protocols, and I think I know how to solve it. So it's going to be an extra contract on top. It's called the collective. I have a couple of names, but the generic name will be, the stealth name will be a collective deposit pool with a couple of cool features for users. It is highlighted here, like to mitigate these concerns, the founder will likely provide an add-on deposit pool, collective pool contract that is secure, audited, and feature-rich. Any comments about collective pooling here? Okay, I have a question about from Warfield. Are there ways to add Explorer to see the moves on the testnet? No, the testnet is a private testnet. It's running on server in Chicago right now. The contract you're interacting with is hosted on a data center in Chicago. So that you may care about it, but that's the reality. So the question is, can we get an Explorer? No, all the features you see on the private testnet are to rebuild everything from scratch. Even Uniswap had to rebuild from scratch. So that gives me a lot of flexibility for launch, right? We can provide a lot of native feature to users so they don't get distracted by go to this website and go to this website, then you can take profit here and this. For my goal is to get millions of users, right? I want millions of no coiners coming in thanks to the referrals. So I don't want to be distracted just jumping onto clicks and other apps with security risk that I to deal with and explanations, or because you don't have support for them. So the Explorer, to answer the question, the Explorer will be on the ULTI testnet, but once the competition is over, a lot of people saying, "How can you let it run?" I think we're gonna do better. We're gonna open up testing to everybody, and it will be done on a public testnet like Sepolia, which is one of the largest testnet for Ethereum. There's a bunch of others. I'll still need to think about, because everybody can get some fake ether over there, right? So you just there's a couple of folks that give faucet data, but people be able to play on the. Everybody could play on the Sepolia testnet, and actually even test the referral. I'll be able to test the referral over there. This could be cool. And there will be access to all the juicy features that you all love, like block explorers and other things that are more widely available. Ability to trade against any other tokens over there for our liquidity pool. So yes, right after the competition is ending, I think we'll take a few days to review the logs and see what needs to be done. We have another audit coming out, so adding maybe fixing a few things if there's any minor findings in the contract. So far, it's been really, really clean. You see, it's been running smoothly for how many years? Accelerated years? Yeah, 3 years. The contract has been running, guys, for 3 years. Granted, we just have a handful of participants. But given the complexity of bonuses and cycles and timings throughout, I hope you appreciate that things are fairly stable at this point, and I still have 2 security audits to go. So very promising. So no Explorer for the testnet, but it's coming in the next phase where we deploy the ULTI contract on Sepolia, Ethereum testnet. I think we're going to wrap it up soon. I will just conclude with kind of a high level. This is not financial advice. High level like strategies that I can see for different players, and we'll wrap up. So, okay, what about compounding effect? Was it for the? Oh yeah, that was for the streak bonus. Yeah, is this something psychologically very interesting for the streak bonus? Obviously, because cycle after cycle you just accumulate a bit more. Then you get the diminishing return and the amount of accumulation, but then you start building something for long term. And humans are all risk don't like to lose things. We have a called loss intolerance, and so once you spend so much energy building something, it's heartbreaking. If you real money and you get this online, actually, you may see some market opportunities, short-term market opportunity, but I expect what we see in the testing phase to be slightly different based on the sheer amount of time, even the time invested. So we're talking about years building the bonus. So. Okay, let's move on to referrals. Referrals, I'm gonna maybe skip referrals for now because it's not so relevant in the testing phase. The best things about referral is the invention of the skin in the game cap. This one is beautiful. Yes, I could do at least 1 or 2 hours. As I was a stream actually, we spoke about 45 minutes about that skin in the game cap. There's a lot of consequences for different people. Whether you have 3 people that you refer around you or you're a large influencer, this is really, really cool stuff. Claiming, yeah, we have 3 action when it comes to the deposit and claiming, and then we have a second more holistic claiming function for the bonuses. So the bonuses gets collected every 99 days, so it's after 3 cycles. Main reason really is just to avoid short-term downward spiral. Just if you were to give all the bonuses up front to people, they would dump it and they would recycle their bonuses, so there are a few percentage points into basically into selling and is extracting all of the value from the liquidity pool that will be drained, right, in a matter of days. I did a lot of simulation, and 19 days is quite a good period because it gives confidence that people will be paid soon enough for the investment, but not in 2-3 years, right? So this is a good balance. Yeah, something. It's just a nuggets, but the if there is no pump during a cycle, if there's no pump during a cycle, the guardians of the previous cycle, they lose their bonuses because the first pump of a cycle, any given cycle, is a pump that costs actually a bit more gas because it's distributing. Basically, is doing all the cycle maintenance function, where it's collecting all of the liquidity fees, processing them, doing the distribution, is distributing and meeting all of the bonuses for 33 guardians. So there's 33 mints. That function costs a bit more, right? So that the first is something to know. Right? The first pump of the cycle is more expensive, but someone needs to trigger it, right? So a very exciting fact. It's kind of a handoff. You have the first guardian of that wants to pump in any cycle, basically, apart from the first one. That will be basically doing the distribution of bonuses for the previous guardians, kind of a symbolic handoff. But if there's no pump, I don't expect that to happen. If there's no pump during a cycle, nobody wants to press that first button. The guardian of the previous cycle forfeit their bonuses. Right, so something to keep in mind. Also, one thing to consider about the utilization of the pump pool, right? It's also even gas efficient for collectively the entire set of investors. If you have 10,000 people that drop their ether into a pool, and the pool is in charge to buy for all of them, and they're not individually buying the asset, collectively there's less ether being wasted in transactions. So even though we have about 900 pump expected pump during a cycle, that's better than thousands or 10,000 of individuals buying the price themselves, right? So it's kind of like bundle everything together. It's something I haven't even mentioned in the contract. All right. About pumping, so we're just changing the design of the top pumpers. What the feature was called top pumpers in the contract, where the top 3 pumpers were receiving an extra bonus, and now we're changing that for, I think, a more balanced approach, where there's going to be a maximum amount of pumps distributed across all guardians. We mentioned it earlier, and basically that will act as a vote of confidence for how much of the pump pool needs to be utilized. Yeah, there's something cool, very cool about the guardians as well. If you're aiming to be guardians, you look at past 3 cycles, you want to be guardians, you think you have the capital to compete, or it's the capital, or you've been referring a lot of people. Say, I want that bonus, right? If you invested a bit of energy and time saying, oh, this is the cycle, you can say, well, I want to do, let's say you're a marketer, you're in digital marketing, you're running a campaign, you're optimizing your ads, you're spending a bit more there, and you're calculating, like, if you're spending $1,000 in ads, and you can make, $10,000, 10x on referring a lot of people and getting that bonus, you will do it, right? And now imagine that your targeting cycle was, okay, the competition, that's the right time to do the campaign, right? Now you do your campaigns, you access top contributor bonus because you guardians bonus because you're referring a lot of people, right? You put a bit of capital and you're referring a lot of people. That what leads you to enter the ladder. But you may be number 30, right? Number 25, number 30. You may have invested, because of your investment about referring a lot of people, you may have created actually so much attention that the people you brought in during your marketing campaigns are now competing against you for getting the guardians bonuses. Ironically, that may be happening as well. So when I'm telling you guys there is dozens and dozens of plays and counterplays that you keep unpeeling the more you read and understand the white paper. This is what I mean, right? That ironic, basically, pressure against someone that wants to be a guardian, mostly by looking at the referral aspect to become a guardian and not the capital aspect. It may backfire to them because now they're attracted in their marketing campaigns. They attracted so much attention that they have more competition. All right, I think we highlighted a few of them. There's way more we could do. I'd like to wrap up. Let's see if there's any questions. Okay, Warfield, how would you suggest to learn the lessons and get the most rational approach for ULTI participation? I'm guessing you're referring to the lessons of the testing phase. I'm gonna cover, the 3 main profiles the smart contract has been designed for, and I hope that will help you just get a better sense of what could happen. Will you add and tweak anything in the white paper based on what you've seen so far in testing? Yes, I just outlined the changes. Actually, currently, it went to the second audit yesterday with the changes of that max. We have a max pumper count. Pumps counts per user per cycle is 33. Because there's 33 guardians per cycle, if it lets like nearly all of the guardians to be able to pump nearly close to their limit, so that's great. And we also added a minimum for them, so they don't get before we had just the top pumper bonuses. Now there's a bonus for pumping, extra bonus for pumping as well, but you need to be what is called active pumpers, so a minimum of 11 pumps. So Reason for that is like now, it's not only, the pressure is not only on top pumpers, because you could have imagined that they are the one competing. But let's say if 3 of them is already so far ahead in the top pumpers were so far ahead in terms of pumping, that would discourage maybe other guidance to pump altogether here. So here we have a more sustainable and balanced, I think, system where you're not forced to pump and you get a small kickback if you were to pump. That's the only change I'm thinking of. There's way more feature we could add. I mean, the protocol could be, if you like the game, it could be a bit better. I had to trim a few things. Okay, so for both security concern and also if you want a product to go mainstream, you cannot make it too complex. So I got these 3 large features or bonuses: strict referrals, strict referral quadrants. Fairly easy to explain. Say the largest depositor of the cycles, they get more. The more you speak about it, you get more. The more consistent you are with the deposit, you get more. That's the pitch. It's a buyback and burn with internal revenue, and there's 3 ways to get more ULTI. Is to do either of these 3 things or a combination of these 3 things. That's the pitch, really. Adding more now is not wise, because I already went through live testing phase. We learned a few things. So apart from that top pumper, which was a side feature, really, top pumper feature that's been replaced by active pumper feature, I don't see much things to change. One thing could change is mostly the parameters, right? Namely, the max pump count. Right now it's 33. It's just a one variable in the smart contract. Could be changed. The minimum amount to be active pumpers is 11 now in smart contract. Could be changed. What else could change? Let me actually can look at the contract. All the constants. Max. The top contributors is 7 for the testing phase. It will be 33. It will be 33. So this is not going to change. The early bird price, there was a feedback of one auditor saying, hey, I'm not too sure that that early bird price is a good idea, and depending for the first day, blah blah blah. Some deposit may not work if things are too volatile. So the early bird price, which is 24 hours, could completely disappear. I'm still discussing right now. The 1% we just discussed with feedback of Neo, the 1% fee on the liquidity pool, the canonical position held by the smart contract, will likely be competed away over time. So a more sustainable long-term play could be, a bit less revenue for the protocol. And you could say that actually, if it was 1%, maybe it's too many people undercutting that position at 0.3%, and so the revenue anyway gets taken away. So we might just move that liquidity fee percentage from 1% to 0.3%. The idea of just having it high enough was twofold. It protects better against MEV, the bots basically trading, arbitraging. They get to pay that fees. And basically any short-term activity, could be bots, it could be human traders, like they need to pay that, they pay their revenue. The short-term people that want to do 1,000 trades, every trade they pay that 1% fee, right? So if you're just in and out, so you're here for the long term, that fee, and you don't trade too much ULTI, you won't be affected too much. That was the good side. The flip side of that is you get to leave more opportunities for market makers to come in. So that may be changed. So these are just a couple of handful of variables, like moving 1% to 0.3, moving the minimum active pumpers from 11 pumps to 15. The pump rate, I don't think it will change. I played with it for the past 3 months, really, that pump rate. It feels very small. Some people have said, it's too small, but if you want ULTI to go long for the long term, you want to be conservative enough for the pump pool, because this is the value proposition. We could increase the strength of the pump pool more, say, hey, you actually print green candles every pump. But if it gets depleted within 3 months, you just hope by that point that you have enough distribution of ULTI that the source keeps on going. And this is not what I'm going for. This is a passion project of mine. It's here to stay for the long term. So I prefer to be conservative here. We discussed the advantages of having a bear market resistance with a conservative pool. So the 33% utilization rate, if you project that to a year, will be the same. The skin in the game cap is a 10x. I need more feedback on this 10x. I think it's a good balance, but I will just actually do a couple of tweets on these variables. Say, hey, these are the parameters. Give me the pros and cons. Argue both sides of why it could be changed, higher or lower. I think that's it. I just reviewed all of them. There's one which is the founders giveaway. Right now, it's 33 minimum of 33 ETH. Could be changed, but I made so much announcement about it, right? I just marketed it so well that I will keep it as a minimum 33. We'll see what happens. If it were to be changed, it would be just be increased. But given the amount of time, energy, and resources I'm allocating already to the project, I think that's good, guys. I think this is already more pure DeFi than probably the purest protocol you will ever engage with. So that's it. And the last question. Oh, you wanted to say something, Anil?
I would say the early bird price is necessary, because if a large player gets in there instantly and then market buys the price up, everybody else has to buy in at that higher price in the beginning.
While depositing, you're saying, yeah.
For the early bird price?
Yeah, because you're making the point that if the market spot price moves, obviously TWAPs lags a bit on spot price, but it will, if people are just coming in 1 hour or 2 hours after launch and the price already being jacked up, the deposit, or now the TWAP has catch up already, and the deposits now are obviously at higher rates, right? So yeah, that prediction is cool. It really is a prediction, but his point was more technical. It's the way the function are being called. I may have to increase basically the what's it called, the slippage protection when you do a deposit. You can have the smart contract is already protecting users for any slippage protection. You have a contract defined specified slippage minimums boundaries, and then the user on top of that for all functions, for the deposit functions, and I think pump functions. The users themselves, they can even make it even more tight to prevent any MEV. So this is yeah. No, I see your point. I that's why I designed it. I think I designed it just to say, hey, any short-term arbitrage, basically a short-term manipulation during launch, well, you won't be impacted. You would kind of the stability level that you can enter in. That makes it very, very comfortable and friendly for most players, small or big.
I guess I just don't see the technical issues on why that would be a bad issue.
Yeah. It's a bit nuanced.
It makes sense, I guess.
It's a bit nuanced, but we're going back and forth right now. Just because I'm just arguing against him. I'm like, what is the likelihood of it to happen, and do we need to increase slippage a bit more for making sure that all deposits, because when you do a deposit, basically you also add liquidity, and if you add liquidity at a specific rate, right, and the price is moving too much, basically you need to make sure that you can have it both ways, right? It's about the split, right? The split goes into 97% of Ether going to the user with the equivalent rate, and the rest is based on that rate. You have the Ether being paired with 3% of ULTI. However, if the price goes up, when you do the liquidity gets added to the position. If the price moves, you need now to use something different than the fixed rate. you need to have the TWAP right. So there might be just a couple of modifications I need to do in the contract. We're debating on how to make sure that for the first day, really, like if the price gets really pushed up a lot, it can only be pushed up basically. By the way, that's what it does, these things, because there's no ULTI available before in the first 24 hours. The price, there will be a bit of ULTI in a liquidity pool seeded. People can only buy ULTI. So the price of ULTI early, there's an entry price, which is the ratio of ULTI and ETH, can only go up.
But the ULTI price doesn't exist in the first 24 hours.
It does. This is the ratio seeded by the liquidity of the founder.
Right.
Yeah, I'm setting the price.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wait, so
yeah, I mean, the launch dynamics are slightly different than other protocols because I have a launch function. The contract gets immutable when I launch with some seeded liquidity, which fixes the ratio between Ether and ULTI. So I'm fixing the price depending on how much liquidity I provide early on. A minimum of 33 ETH full range is not too much, right? You can still a bot, if they acquire like 50K in terms of dollars, 50K or 100K, they will jack up the price. But the good news is the first price is the ratio. And during these first 24 hours, whatever you buy, you can only sell what you bought, right? And which is not more than what was available in the pool in the first place, minus the fees. So during that entire time, the depositors, they get the base rate, the entry rate. So this is a very unique concept that I haven't seen being employed anywhere else. Yeah.
I would just say the liquidity pools should be created after the 24 hours, and then it would have to. That's the only way I could think of it. Or I don't know. It's hard to say. It's complicated.
It depends of how many ARBS bots come in.
Why would people be incentivized to buy it on the open market from the liquidity pool in the first 24 hours? I don't understand what the benefit of that would be.
So the way, the current army of bots that are looking at new pairs being created, new tokens and pairs being created. There's like hundreds of basically professionals, arbiter, that release in the wild these bots that are just looking at the mempool, the transaction coming on chain, and say, oh, there's a transaction that says adding newly created pairs for maybe a more exotic token. This is the launch of the token, basically. The first time we see that liquidity. These bots, themselves, they compete against each other because they make the assumption, based on all historical launches, they make the assumption that as soon as the liquidity is being created, some humans will come in and start buying on the market, which they will always buy with delay compared to the bots. And so it's kind of like we're on the blockchain, so it's not like high frequency trading, but they front run basically the human trades, or even the bots themselves competing against each other because they make this same assumption about any humans coming later. And so they wait some people just to come in a bit later and dump on, they get a few people buying on top of them, and then they dump the price. They made their 1%, 10% profit, and they move on to the next pair, right? So that is why in theory, there's no incentive for anyone, given the protocol, to buy on market. Deposit rate, especially early, is the way to go. But they will make these assumptions. So I'm expecting bots to come in and buy the price, which makes it very interesting for depositors because now, basically, the bots give them liquidity.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good thing. I still don't understand the technical aspect of why it's bad, but you got it. I would say the bots buying it would be good, but that's whatever.
They should, if they have models. I don't know who. I've seen a couple of them, so I know how they behave. I just do a quick analysis of the blockchain. But often they jump in to buy because they expect 99% of launches is
that makes sense.
It's founder creating meme coins or whatever, and they drop liquidity, not understanding nothing what's going on, and that's it. This is where they try to do this arbitrage, and because their model is based on what they see the most, ULTI is different because of the arbitrage is not in their favor because the base rate is given to depositors. They don't know that. These bots don't know that.
That'd be funny to see in real life.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. That's that early bird price. Yeah, is something that came up after most of the other features. It's mostly, but I found it fun. Like that for once, humans gets to beat the bots.
I bet the bot owner is going to look like, how did we lose money? And then he'll look into the project and be like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. That would be
Okay.
funny.
Let's update our protocols to avoid situation like that in the future. I'm guessing they have rules or backstop to make sure that they don't lose too much to a certain limit and they're ready to sell. And so if all of them were to buy against each other, they might basically trade against each other. Some of them will win over the other guys. A couple of humans may jump in, not understanding what's going on. And yeah, if everybody sells back to get all the ULTIs they acquired, the price will be already higher than the entry price because of the fees, right? They would have lost a bit more money in aggregate, right? So,
another thing is, like you've mentioned before, the bots don't like the 1% liquidity pools.
Yeah, that the target were different pools. So we'll see. I'm doing as much as possible in the contract just to avoid external extraction of value. You can see with the sniping protection, we can see with the number of pound bundle with the pump pool, with early bird protection. So yeah, there's a lot over there. Same thing for the strict boundaries, basically. Same thing to avoid people to extract too much value. I think Luke asked, is there anything new coming to the white paper? Yes, actually, it was feedback from the last auditors saying that someone could game the strict bonus a bit, because even with the boundaries, someone could just jump in, just use the strict bonus for a bunch of cycles at one way, which is the smallest unit of ether. It's like 1 to the power of 10 to the power of 18. That way would give you 1 ether, and so very, very small fraction could be used. There would still be a valid strict for them, and then just once they start acquiring more of their strict bonus, then they start jumping in with more value. So he recommended just to add a minimum amount of ether for the deposit altogether. And I was worried about that because if the price of ether goes up, like you exclude a lot of people on the planet that cannot even jump in. So I did a little economic analysis, and we came up with a good balance. So you won't be able to give the smallest amount of ever ethers to trigger that strict bonus, right? So all of the latest changes are minor adjustment to avoid any exploitation of the bonuses. Okay, last 2 questions, and I'm gonna wrap up. What if token tradable weren't tradable by users? Instead, smart contract handles all sales when someone wants to sell, spreading it out rather than one buy. Yeah, that is cool staking. So I prefer to have user liquids because some people are impatient, and I want impatient people to pay the patience. This is my theory. As long as the TWAP is long enough, no one should be able, at large scale, thousands of players, including bots, no one should be able just to do short-term recycling, so selling, and because that creates more positive on the open market. So as long as the TWAP is long enough, we should be fine on that front. And I mean, dumping is part of the game. I don't like that term. I call it taking profit. If someone just invested in a protocol like anyone else, they're entitled by the smart contract just to exit. Community and everything is cool, but at core, this is a financial game and investment. So the most important is to celebrate people that made money with the protocol. It means that they understood better than anyone else, that they invested more, that they talk about it more, or that they referred more, they had a longer streak. These are the players that will get the more ULTI. So I love most ULTI community members just to celebrate the people taking profit, because it means that these people were early contributors and they built basically the growth of the protocol. Yes, except for minor glitches, it's a pleasure to interact with ULTI. Cool. I'm expecting that these glitches are just UI based. Yeah, I hope there's no contract level glitches, meaning like, let's say you're engaging in a streak and you're already in 22 streak counts, and so somehow next time around you're doing the same amount of deposit and you don't get it. That would be an issue. That would be a contract issue. But if it's just UI, yeah, most of the things that I actually haven't touched the code for, apart from changing the pumper, the active pumper new feature. But there was no issue really, no smart contract issue at all. So just a UI based things. And the good thing with UI is it can be fixed within minutes, right? So if it's not complicated. So. All right. I'll let you maybe wrap up with the last question, Yo, and I need to leave.
No, I think we got it all. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you everybody for joining, for playing. I think we have about total views for the stream, about 400 live in the past 2 hours. So really cool. Feel free to like, retweet, and everything. I'm getting, the more the days passes and the more people interacting with the protocol, the more I'm getting excited, because I start seeing emerging the vision I had a few months ago, where a pump pool keeps accumulating more ULTI. So I think we may just do, at the margin, a few tweaks here and there. The UI will be better. The contract will be ultra secure. And yeah, there's enough people that told me that they were willing to invest a significant amount of Ether for me to be optimistic about the launch of ULTI. So thank you very much, everybody, for testing. Thank you for all the people that are not testers but interested in protocol, that start speaking about it, sharing the concept, and watching the testers live. Because for you, I think I enabled that 2 days ago. Now anyone can observe the testers. You don't even need to connect a wallet. It's just the data is being shared transparently. And the last thing I want to say, is happy pumping. All right, we'll do maybe another stream before the end of the testing phase. Cool. Things are moving along. Great. We'll do another stream before the end of the testing phase to touch on what do we do. Do we do anything? So it might be 2 days from now. Do we do anything to maybe prevent too high volatility when we reach the end of the testing phase, right? I think Neo, you mentioned it. There's two other people that mentioned it as well. And the best thing I came up with, I think, was doing this live stream, was to programmatically decrease the impact of selling over time. So just to dampen a bit the volatility the more you go on. So you cannot come last minute. It's like the last sniping protection in the contract. I can do the same with the sell button. So we'll discuss, and we'll just gather a bit of feedback before moving forward with the features. Quite easy to implement anyway. All right, and I think that's wrapped. Cool. Thanks everybody. See you in about 2 days for another stream, touching on the progress. We'll have a bit more visibility on the ranking already, getting people excited about their current position. Can they still have time to take over? More and more people are learning about different strategies that can be employed during the testing phase. So that creates more dynamism and more activity, and more activity is good because we all learn together. So thank you for participating. I really appreciate the engagement, the positivity. I think it's going to be a beautiful launch. So thank you very much. Have a good one.